Our republic has a constitution. What the hell? I am the magic eye. I am a private bank. I am taking over. You will obey me. Auditing the Federal Reserve. One of the most difficult things for our government to do.
Who owns the Federal Reserve? This is a question people don't often ask themselves. It's a question that Congress seldom inquires about. It's something that newspaper reporters studiously avoid. With the invention of the internet, we have a number of websites who do speculate about who owns the Fed, but it's immensely difficult to find out exactly who owns what, where, and when. This is because the Federal Reserve is a private bank run for private purposes that has basically taken over our entire financial system and has declared its intent to control all aspects of our economic lives, from wages, prices, how much we spend in our government, which evidently seems to be infinity. This system has to be dealt with directly because it's unconstitutional and, I think, frankly, illegal. Our courts have supported the Federal Reserve concept because Congress passed a law in 1913 making the Federal Reserve legal. But when you look at it from a historical perspective, it's hardly legal at all. Our founding fathers created three branches of the government: the executive, the legislative, and the one in between them, the courts. These three are in conflict with each other and balance each other out. The system was set up so no one system could control the other two simultaneously. At least that was the hopes of our founding fathers. Alas, a new element was introduced in 1913 that pretty much undid the entire system. Namely, a private organization was set up there that was not balanced by any of the other three, but existed above it all, like the top of a pyramid, like this, with an eyeball in it. And they were going to control our economic matters and our budget matters via manipulating the interest rates. In the news today is a story that just came across the wires from the Huffington Post. A last-minute amendment to the bankruptcy reform bill passed in the Senate Wednesday, and it opens the Federal Reserve to congressional scrutiny. I go to the Federal Reserve website all the time. It has all kinds of interesting information and disinformation. One thing they say repeatedly is that they're under the control of Congress. All Congress has to do is pass a law, and they have to obey. Usually Congress doesn't pass any laws, so they never worry about this event coming along. But here it is! All it takes is to have the Federal Reserve destroy our entire economy, destroy everything in their path, and then finally Congress gets the nerve to try to pass a law. The amendment was pushed by Senator Charles Grassley of Iowa, the highest-ranking Republican on the Finance Committee, and quietly breezed through 95-1. Grassley said that his measure wasn't aimed at limiting the Fed's independence, but that Congress just wanted to know a little bit about what's the Fed doing. The proposal is, said Grassley, an important reform for holding the entities. Who are these entities? You know, when I hear the word entities, I think of monsters lurking in the dark. An entity is a thing. It's like something that comes along and goes, "Hiss, my precious, I am going to rule you with my magic ring." That's what an entity is. An entity is a demon. Anyway, it's an important reform for holding the entities involved in the massive taxpayer-funded economic bailout accountable to the public. The last thing any entity wants is to be accountable to anyone at all. This is why they're called entities. They are not people. They're not things. They are a force of evil. The oversight power would only apply to Fed involvement with specific private firms, such as its actions to assist J.P. Morgan Chase's purchase of Bear Stearns, provide financing for the Bank of America and Citibank, and its other moves concerning AIG, the American International Group. There is another bill before Congress that's pretty similar, but a lot more detailed, and certainly a lot more aggressive. That bill is just a sop thrown to the public. The public is extremely angry about everything, and so they figure, well, if we ask the Federal Reserve for a little more information, maybe everything will be okay. No, it won't work. Here's Ron Paul's and Kucinich's bill. They are a bipartisan duo who ran for president and who were, of course, dismissed as a pair of kooks. Unfortunately, they seem to be the only two sane people in Congress. Here is their bill, H.R. 1207. It's to reform the audit process and to provide transparency for the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. It goes into great detail exactly how this is going to be done. I suspect that the bill being passed right now in Congress is one that's to short-circuit 1207, because up until last year nobody would sign on to it. Suddenly, after the outrage shown by the public, 127 Congress people signed on to the bill, making it formidable. It has to go before the committee and then be passed onwards. They do not want this, so they inserted this other bill in, saying, well, we don't need to audit them, we're going to have this half-assed audit. And I say, call Congress and tell them you want 1207 passed, not this little ditzy thing they did in the middle of the night with almost no warning, all very quietly and quickly. We're going to do it. No. We're going to do it legally, properly, and pass a law that binds the Federal Reserve forever. Either that, or we can, of course, banish the Federal Reserve. Part 2 is coming up. We're going to discuss who owns the Federal Reserve.